Hello and welcome back to my channel. We are going to start my reading borrowed books part 5, and the first book that I'm going to read for this is The Little Wartime Library. One of my goals for 2025 is to get all of my borrowed books off of my shelf and return to their owners, and this one I've had for over a year, so let's get started reading this book. I'm about 50 pages into my borrowed book, and it has been a while since I read historical fiction. I like the concept so far. I'm not far enough in where like the story has really picked up. We've just gotten a lot of background information, so it's just taking me a little bit to get into because I'm just not quite vibing historical fiction, but it is a very fast read. I read like 20 pages in maybe like 15-17 minutes, so I will get through this. I just will have to push myself a little bit to get into the story. I'm hoping once I hit page 100 that like the story and plot has picked up. It'll be easier to kind of push my way through. The font in this book is also very large, which is nice considering some of the other books I've read. So I'm going to keep reading my borrowed book, and I will check in when I have something else to say. So I am halfway through this borrowed book, and I'm finding it okay so far. I've definitely read much better historical fiction. There's a lot of characters and like a lot going on. I honestly feel like the dual perspective in this right now isn't really working for me. I think it would have done better to be one perspective all the way through, but I'm finding the content interesting. The relationships are okay. It is a war book, so people have been dying, but I just like don't care. So I'm about halfway through and going to try to push through and finish this up soon so then I can return it to its owner. I just finished my first borrowed book of reading borrowed books part 5, I think. And this one is a historical fiction based on a real place, an underground library in one of the tube station shelters. And the beginning of this book I felt like was really slow, but the last like 100 pages or so of it, I actually really enjoyed like the wrapping up of all the stories and kind of the different ways that these people came out of the end of the war. There was some not so great. There was a lot of happy endings. I think the author wanted happy endings, but after reading like the author's note and stuff, she did interview like a lot of people and librarians who lived in this time and got a lot of first-hand accounts and kind of honored them through some of the characters in her book. So I'm glad that I finally read this and got it off my shelves and now can return it to its owner. So that is my first borrowed book done, and I think I might pick up my next borrowed book very shortly. I am going to start my next borrowed book, also borrowed to me by my mom, A Beautiful Mystery by Louise Penny. So this is, I'm assuming, a mystery book. It is set in a convent, in a cloister, so I'm very interested to see where this book takes me, and I'm hoping it will be a pretty fast read. So let's get reading my next borrowed book. So I am 321 pages into this book. I am hoping to finish it out tonight because I only have, it's 390-ish pages, so I have less than 100 pages left, and I'm hoping to finish it out tonight because then it will also finish a book off my April TBR in the last day of April, and I am ready to finish another borrowed book, and then I would have finished 2 in April, and my parents are coming this weekend, so hopefully I can complete this and then return 2 books to my mom. So let's see if I can finish this up tonight. I just finished The Beautiful Mystery, so I have another borrowed book done, and this one was pretty interesting. It was very like religion heavy because the mystery takes place in a monastery that is in the middle of nowhere, and it also has to do with Gregorian chants, and that are very much a part of this religious experience. So there's a lot of those themes throughout this book. I found it very interesting. It's very different from things that I've read. I did kind of figure out who the killer was very early on in the book, and then there's like an unresolved part of one of the plot lines, which I think is part of a bigger through plot line, because I think this is technically part of a series, but I have no desire to read this as a series, so I'm just reading it as a standalone. But it was definitely pretty interesting and different from other things that I've read, and now I can return it to my mom. So I've picked up my next borrowed book, which is The Frozen River, and I just started it today. And this one I borrowed from my mom, so I will hopefully get this done, because I think I will see her in the next couple weeks, so then I can finish this one. And then my next book I'm going to read is also one borrowed from her, so then I can check 2 off of my list and return them to her. So let's get reading. So I went to the gym and did some grocery shopping and ate some lunch, and now I'm back home. So I'm going to keep reading The Frozen River. My goal is to read 100 pages, and then I can just binge some TV. It is a rainy day, so the perfect day to get cozy and read on the couch. So that's what I'm gonna do. I just finished The Frozen River, which is a borrowed book to me, so I finally got this one done. It took me a long time to read this book. I really, for like the first 200-ish pages, I couldn't get into it, and I think it might have been because it was too similar to another book that I was reading at the time, and just like getting into the story. But the ending I really enjoyed, like the last half of the book I really enjoyed, and I do really like this author's book, so I just think it was maybe not quite the right timing for me to read it. But I did finally get this one done, and I can check it off my list and return it to the person that it belongs to. My next borrowed book that I am reading is Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. This is one that my mom borrowed to me. I actually bought this for her for Christmas or her birthday, and this past year, and she read it, and then she said, now you have to read it, because apparently it's very intellectual and literary. So I'm really in a literary mood right now, and I want to read this, so I'm gonna read this. It's also on my July TBR, so let's read my next borrowed. I am 400 pages into my next borrowed book, so I only have about 100 pages left to read, and I'm gonna do that tonight. So I finished up my last borrowed book, Cloud Atlas, of this video a couple days ago, but it was late at night when I finished it up, so I did not have a time to check in. But I really enjoyed this book. It was it's stories nested within each other that all have some sort of connection, and I really wanted to just keep reading to figure out what is that connection between all of the different pieces. And it was such an engaging book for me. I would call this like literary fiction, and I just really enjoyed it, so I can return this one to my mom, because that is who I borrowed it from. And that also wraps up this reading borrowed books. I think this is 5, and then after I'm done with this, I'm actually going to start my next borrowed book, so there will be a reading borrowed books part 6 sometime in the future. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.